An Israeli official says that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has dissolved Israel's war cabinet. That's after Minister Benny Gantz and his National Unity Party quit the government on June 9th. The move comes as Israel continues its military operations in the Gaza Strip. Israel's army has said it would implement a daily tactical pause, as it calls it, along a road in southern Gaza to allow aid deliveries through the key Kerem Shalom border crossing. The United Nations has welcomed the announcement, but said more needs to be done. Children are among those with the greatest needs. The World Health Organization said over 8,000 children under 5 have been diagnosed and treated for acute malnutrition. 1,600 of them are classified as severe. As well as not having enough food, 8 agencies say children lack access to sufficient health care and are living in a constant state of fear. James Elder is a global spokesperson for UNICEF. He joins us now from Rafah in southern Gaza. James, so good to see you. Thank you so much for making the time. You were last in Rafah back in March. How has the situation changed since then, especially for children?
Look, it's gotten so much worse. No one should be surprised by that. Since March, those same children have had 2-3 more months of relentless bombardments every night. As we were getting this sorted out, there are bombardments here now. Last night, the night before, if it's not bombardments, it's drones, either attack drones or drones that are like a lawnmower in your head. This continues to go on. The great fear is that it's being normalized. There is nothing normal about children being deprived food. There's nothing normal about thousands of children being bombed. There's certainly nothing normal about the constant fear that people live in. So people now are physically and psychologically shattered. They were in March. Somehow they've held on. But they are literally now just holding on with a dire lack of water, with nutrition, consistent denials of aid, and ongoing indiscriminate attacks. I've just come back from a hospital, again seeing children with limbs missing, with being made blind in the last few days while sleeping in their home. It's 250 days. That's how things are compared to March.
And thousands of children are also suffering from acute malnutrition now. That's according to the WHO. Now, do you believe these 11-hour tactical pauses that the Israeli military has announced will do much to remedy the situation?
Any pause in bombing is good news for children. They haven't seen it. They haven't heard it. It's hard to explain what it's like, must be like for a child, for this relentless bombardment. As a mother said to me in March, where they thought they were going to get a ceasefire, tonight is a night I can promise my child she will wake up tomorrow morning. That ceasefire, of course, didn't happen. That hope was bombed away. So any pause is good. There is a lot more to be seen with what this means. It's one crossing. It's about getting some aid in. We need to get more aid in, yes, but then we need to get that aid safely across the Gaza Strip. That is the responsibility of the occupying power. It is a very difficult, it is a very dangerous place to give aid. So we have to see it. There is a lot yet to be seen right now. There is, we need to see evidence on the ground, not more statements. We need to see evidence as to whether this will mean smoother, faster, safer delivery of aid. The clearest way to do that would not just be with a pause or a strategic pause, would be with more crossings opening. In fact, we've seen them close. Rafah in the south is the humanitarian lifeline for humanitarian agencies for aid coming in. We've seen half as many trucks in May as April, half as many at a time where the need is skyrocketing. And we've seen half as many because May, of course, was the offensive in Rafah, the so-called quote unquote limited offensive. The limited offensive that led to 1 million more people being displaced. So we need more crossings and we need a much safer environment. So it's a step, but it's a very baby step and it's only been around for a day. I'm not exactly sure on the space, but there's been bombardment in the last couple of hours nearby where I am, at least in Rafah.
Yeah. The fact that the situation on the ground is growing increasingly desperate, what does it mean for UNICEF's ability to carry out its task?
Look, this is a really difficult place to operate. We've seen more United Nations colleagues killed here than in any war since World War II. And this is 8 months on now. But this is what my colleagues do. They're frontline responders, whether it's UNICEF, whether it's UNRWA, the backbone of an aid operation, WHO, WFP. These are frontline workers. Whether we're in Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen, Ukraine, this is what people do. But it's very difficult. I was on a convoy on Wednesday to go to the north with a truck of medical and nutritional supplies for 10,000 children, critical life-saving supplies. It was about a 25-mile, 40-kilometre journey. It took 13 hours with all the paperwork. It took 13 hours, and in the end, that truck was denied based on that it was meant to be a van, not a closed truck. After all the inspections, it was denied. Those 10,000 children did not get that aid. Now, we will return. We will go again, but it's not as simple as going the next day because given how dangerous this operating environment is, we need armoured vehicles for every convoy. So that's 10,000 children. We've got a very wide mandate, UNICEF. It's water, it's sanitation, it's tents because so many families have lost their home. We won't stop. But we need Israel to facilitate, enable us to do our work for those civilians who are again, just holding on.
You say that people live in constant fear, understandably so. What psychological impact are you seeing on children and their parents?
Oh, we're in uncharted territory. There is no doubt. There is every single child in the Gaza Strip needs some sort of mental health care. I don't really know of an example. No one wants to leave their home, but if your home gets destroyed and 2/3 of houses and buildings here have been damaged or destroyed, I've never seen this devastation. It's post-apocalyptic. 2/3. If your home gets bombed, of course, you just want to leave. You want to get as far away from the constant threat of missiles and bombs as you can. You cannot here. Children cannot escape that here. So the sound, constant sound of drones and bombs, and of course the deprivation, and even just for a child to look into their parents' eyes and now to know that your mum or dad cannot protect you is a terrifying thing. I've had more than a handful of young people this past week say to me, I have nothing left. I hope a missile hits my tent. I'm done. That's the mental health of children here, of a very young generation who, you know, with opportunities and an education and a labour market, you know, a young population is the envy of ageing countries, but not with the conditions these children are forced to live through.
This is UNICEF spokesperson James Elder in Rafah. James, thank you so much for your time, and please try to be safe.
Thanks, Nicole.
And for the latest, I'm now joined by DW correspondent Rebecca Ritters. She joins us from Jerusalem. Rebecca, centrist Benny Gantz left the war cabinet last week, and now Netanyahu has dissolved it completely. Why is that?
Well, this hasn't come as a surprise, Nicole. It was largely expected after Benny Gantz and Gadi Eisenkot did stand down from the war cabinet. Now, the war cabinet was made around about October 11th last year, just after the breakout of the war, at the behest of Benny Gantz, who said that he would come on board to provide a more unified force, a unity government, as it is known here, to try to guide Israel through this complex time. Now, since they've stood down, the Prime Minister's office now says that it is no longer needed, this war cabinet, but it's largely thought that's because far-right Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, the National Security Minister, was pushing to be allowed into that war cabinet, and that's something that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu clearly wasn't in favour of and certainly wouldn't have pleased Israel's ally, the United States. So instead, he's decided to dissolve the cabinet completely. Instead, now decisions will go to a wider security cabinet on which Itamar Ben-Gvir and the finance minister Bezalel Smotrich, both heading ultra-nationalist parties in the coalition, they are both on that security cabinet and will be overseeing some of the decisions being made. Although it is thought that there will also be smaller consultative groups made up in an ad hoc fashion, and they may contain, various members that Benjamin Netanyahu picks at the time for particular decisions. But it is being said, or it's thought in some circles, that this situation may actually favour Benjamin Netanyahu, who is looking for ways not to end this war, even though there's a lot of international pressure to do so. And by allowing, or by, in fact, having to have these decisions go to a wider security cabinet that do include these hawkish members, they have already said that they do not want to see an end of the war until all the military aims have been met. So that could work in Benjamin Netanyahu's favour.
Yeah. Rebecca, this is not the only political headache for Netanyahu. It seems Israel's military and its government don't really see eye to eye on the issue of those so-called tactical pauses that were announced over the weekend. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, that's right. These were announced yesterday pretty early in the morning by the Israeli military that there would be these 11-hour tactical pauses on a particular humanitarian route that has been demarcated. Now, shortly after that announcement, these far-right ministers, namely Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir, both came out against them. And then we heard from the Prime Minister's office, or at least it was reported to have come from the Prime Minister's office, that Benjamin Netanyahu was also upset by this news, showing a kind of a rift between the military and what Benjamin Netanyahu is planning for them to do. So it's not the first time we've seen a difference in opinion and difference in issues there. We'll have to see what comes of these pauses and whether they'll continue given that rift.
DW correspondent Rebecca Ritters from Jerusalem, thank you.